Do you ever think about those Christmas ads from the 1970s that seem almost unreal today? Back then, commercials sold products with promises, humor, and imagery that would spark outrage the moment they aired now. So what made the world laugh then that would get a company canceled today? Cigarette brand Christmas gift sets marketed to wives were once wrapped in red ribbon and sold as tokens of holiday love, sitting right beside perfume and jewelry in department store displays. Advertisers showed smiling husbands handing over elegant cartons to grateful wives, as if nicotine were the greatest gesture of affection a man could offer. The slogans dripped with romance, promising that a particular brand would make her feel sophisticated, relaxed, and appreciated during the busy holiday season. Nobody blinked at the idea of gifting something now known to cause serious illness, because back then, smoking was woven into the fabric of everyday life. Commercials featured cozy living rooms, crackling fires, and couples lighting up together after Christmas dinner like it was the most natural thing in the world. Children watched these ads between cartoon specials, absorbing the message that cigarettes meant love, class, and celebration. The jingles were catchy, the packaging was festive, and the warnings were nowhere to be found. Today, airing an ad that positioned cigarettes as romantic gifts would be unthinkable, a relic of an era when danger was dressed in holiday cheer and sold with a smile. Sexist kitchen appliance ads targeting happy housewives filled the commercial breaks of every holiday special, showing women beaming with joy at the sight of a new blender or toaster under the tree. These ads portrayed the kitchen as a woman's kingdom, suggesting that the greatest gift a husband could give was something that made her domestic duties easier and faster. The women in these commercials wore aprons, pearls, and expressions of pure gratitude, as if receiving a vacuum cleaner was the emotional highlight of their entire year. Voiceovers praised these appliances for helping wives serve their families better, reinforcing the idea that a woman's worth was measured by how smoothly dinner appeared on the table. Husbands in the ads sat proudly in armchairs, satisfied that they had chosen a gift both practical and appreciated, never once questioning why their wives might want something less utilitarian. Children grew up watching these messages, absorbing expectations about gender roles wrapped in cheerful holiday music. Today, running an ad that reduced women to grateful kitchen workers would ignite a firestorm of criticism and boycott calls faster than any appliance could blend a smoothie. Beer commercials featuring Santa drinking on the job were holiday staples that aired without a hint of controversy in the 1970s. Advertisers loved pairing jolly old Saint Nick with a frosty mug, implying that even the busiest man in the world needed to unwind with a cold one after a long night of deliveries. These ads showed Santa cracking open bottles by the fireplace, raising a toast with grateful homeowners, or even sneaking sips between chimney stops. The humor was simple. If Santa trusted this brand, surely it was good enough for everyone else gathered around the television. Nobody worried about the message it sent to children watching alongside their parents because alcohol and holiday cheer seemed naturally intertwined. Taglines joked about reindeer waiting impatiently or Mrs. Claus pouring refills at the North Pole. It all felt harmless, festive, and funny. Today, depicting Santa consuming alcohol in a commercial would trigger immediate backlash from parent groups, regulators, and advocacy organizations who understand how easily such images blur the line between celebration and promotion of drinking. Toy gun ads encouraging real combat for boys dominated Christmas commercial blocks, showing young children charging through backyards with plastic rifles and shouting battle cries. These commercials promised authenticity, bragging about realistic sounds, lifelike designs, and mechanisms that mimicked actual firearms. Boys were told to gear up, take aim, and defeat imaginary enemies in scenarios that blurred the line between play and genuine conflict. Parents watching saw nothing unusual, because toy guns were simply part of childhood, handed down through generations. The ads featured military imagery, camouflage outfits, and language that glorified combat as exciting, heroic, and undeniably masculine. Nobody paused to consider how these messages shaped young minds. Voiceovers urged kids to ask for these toys by name, and stores stocked shelves high with options ranging from pistols to machine guns. Today, advertising that glamorizes weapon play for children would be pulled from the air before the first commercial break ended, rejected by networks and criticized by groups alarmed by the connection between play violence and real-world consequences. Diet pill Christmas specials for weight-conscious women promised holiday transformations that now seem dangerously irresponsible. Advertisers targeted women with messaging that implied looking slim was the greatest gift they could give themselves, their husbands, and their holiday photographs. These commercials aired during family viewing hours, featuring slim models explaining how easy it was to shed pounds before the big party or fit into last year's dress just in time for Christmas dinner. The pills themselves contain stimulants and appetite suppressants that have since been banned or heavily restricted, but back then they were sold as harmless helpers. Voiceovers assured viewers that results came quickly, safely, and without the need for exercise or willpower. Young girls watched alongside their mothers, absorbing messages that equated thinness with happiness and self-worth. Nobody questioned whether promoting rapid weight loss during the season of indulgence might cause harm. Today, airing ads that push unregulated diet pills on women during the holidays would be met with outrage, regulatory scrutiny, and widespread condemnation from health professionals and advocates alike. Car ads showing families driving without seatbelts captured a carefree attitude toward safety that feels almost reckless by modern standards. These commercials featured smiling parents in the front seat and children bouncing freely in the back, sometimes even standing or leaning between the seats to point at holiday decorations passing by. Advertisers focused on comfort, style, and the joy of family road trips, never once mentioning restraints or safety features. The cars themselves were marketed as spacious enough for everyone to move around, as if freedom of movement inside a moving vehicle was a selling point rather than a hazard. Holiday versions of these ads showed families heading to Grandma's house through snowy landscapes, laughter filling the cabin while seatbelts hung limp and ignored. Nobody imagined that a sudden stop could turn that cheerful scene into tragedy. Regulators had not yet mandated seatbelt use, and advertisers saw no reason to complicate their messaging with caution. Today, depicting a family driving unrestrained would never make it past a network standards review, and any automaker foolish enough to try would face public outrage and legal consequences almost immediately. Cologne ads promising women would obey wearers leaned into a fantasy of masculine control that advertisers embraced without hesitation. These commercials showed confident men splashing on fragrance and suddenly finding themselves surrounded by adoring women who seemed powerless to resist. The messaging was direct. Wear this scent, and women will follow your lead. Hang on your every word and do whatever you desire. Holiday versions wrapped this troubling premise in festive imagery, suggesting that the perfect Christmas gift for any man was a bottle of irresistible power. Voiceovers used words like command, conquer, and captivate, framing romantic attraction as something closer to domination. Women in these ads had little personality beyond their wide-eyed admiration, reduced to props that validated the product's exaggerated claims. Nobody questioned whether such messaging was harmful or degrading. It was simply how fragrance was sold, with swagger, fantasy, and deeply problematic undertones. Today, airing an ad that promised women would obey a cologne wearer would be immediately condemned as sexist, dangerous, and wildly out of touch with cultural expectations around consent and respect. Household cleaner ads showing women in servitude portrayed scrubbing floors and polishing surfaces as expressions of feminine devotion rather than shared household labor. These commercials featured wives and mothers on their hands and knees, cheerfully attacking dirt while husbands relaxed in nearby rooms, blissfully unaware of the effort happening just out of sight. Holiday versions added festive pressure, reminding women that guests would judge their homes and, by extension, their worth as homemakers. The products promised to make the endless cycle of cleaning faster, easier, and more satisfying, as if joy could be found at the bottom of a bucket of suds. Voiceovers praised the dedicated woman who kept her home spotless despite the chaos of the season. Children absorbed these images, learning early that cleaning was a woman's responsibility and pride. Men were absent from the labor entirely, appearing only to appreciate the gleaming results. Today, depicting women as sole custodians of household cleanliness while men contribute nothing would spark boycotts, social media backlash, and accusations of regressive stereotyping that no brand could afford to ignore. Whiskey gift set ads for the man who has everything positioned hard liquor as the ultimate expression of holiday generosity between men. These commercials showed elegant decanters, crystal glasses, and richly packaged bottles, presented as prestigious tokens of respect. The messaging implied that real men appreciated fine whiskey, and gifting it demonstrated sophistication and taste. Holiday versions leaned heavily into imagery of crackling fires, leather armchairs, and cigars, painting a picture of refined celebration reserved for men of distinction. Nobody questioned whether normalizing alcohol as a default gift might encourage overconsumption. Voiceovers described flavor profiles with reverence, treating each sip as an experience worth savoring. Women appeared only as servers or admirers, reinforcing the idea that whiskey culture belonged entirely to men. Today, running ads that glorify hard liquor gifting while excluding women and ignoring alcohol-related health concerns would draw criticism from regulators, health advocates, and audiences increasingly aware of how such messaging shapes behavior and reinforces troubling assumptions about masculinity and indulgence. Perfume ads, using suggestive holiday innuendos, pushed boundaries that seem shockingly bold by modern advertising standards. These commercials featured sultry voiceovers, lingering glances, and imagery that barely concealed what the fragrance supposedly promised: seduction, passion, and irresistible allure. Holiday versions wrapped this sensuality in red velvet, mistletoe, and suggestive taglines about what might happen after the gifts were unwrapped. Women were often positioned as objects of desire, their only purpose to attract attention and satisfy fantasies. Men were encouraged to purchase these perfumes as gifts that would transform their partners into something more exciting and available. The messaging reinforced ideas about women existing primarily to please, wrapped in glamour, and sold as romance. Children watching holiday specials absorbed these images without context, learning early that femininity was tied to desirability. Nobody thought twice about airing such content during family programming. Today, broadcasting perfume ads laden with sexual innuendo during holiday viewing hours would be rejected by networks concerned about complaints and cultural expectations of appropriateness. Fur coat ads positioning women as holiday trophies filled glossy magazines and television screens with imagery that reduced femininity to something draped and displayed. These commercials showed women twirling in luxurious pelts while men stood nearby with satisfied expressions, as if purchasing the coat had somehow purchased the woman inside it. The messaging was unmistakable. A fur coat was not just a gift, it was proof that a man had succeeded enough to afford something extravagant for the woman he owned. Holiday versions featured snowy backdrops, elegant parties, and voiceovers describing how she would finally feel worthy of attention when wrapped in real mink or fox. Nobody questioned the ethics of the fur itself or the troubling implication that women existed to be decorated. Children absorbed the idea that expensive gifts defined love and that women measured their value by what men provided. Today, such an ad would face immediate backlash from animal rights activists, feminist critics, and audiences who reject the notion that women are accessories to be purchased and shown off during the holiday season. Lawn dart Christmas ads marketed lethal toys as wholesome family fun, showing children hurling weighted metal spikes across suburban backyards without a care in the world. These commercials promised hours of outdoor entertainment, positioning the heavy-pointed darts as exciting alternatives to boring board games. Kids in the ads laughed and cheered as darts arced through the air and thudded into the ground, sometimes dangerously close to bare feet and curious pets. Parents watching saw nothing alarming, because outdoor play was valued above all else, and a few sharp edges seemed like a reasonable trade for fresh air. The packaging showed happy families gathered on perfectly manicured lawns, tossing darts with carefree abandon. Nobody mentioned the emergency room visits, the puncture wounds, or the tragedies that would eventually lead to a nationwide ban. Voiceovers encouraged families to pick up a set before Christmas morning, promising memories that would last forever. Today, advertising a toy designed to impale the ground inches from children would never survive a safety review, let alone make it onto the air during holiday programming. Candy cigarette ads teaching kids to smoke like grown-ups were marketed directly to children as harmless holiday treats, packaged to look exactly like real tobacco products. These commercials showed kids pretending to puff on white candy sticks, imitating the adults they watched lighting up at every family gathering. The messaging was playful but deeply troubling. Smoking was cool, sophisticated, and something to aspire to once you were old enough. Holiday versions featured children unwrapping candy cigarette packs from stockings, practicing their best grown-up poses while parents chuckled approvingly. Nobody considered that these products were training a generation to see cigarettes as normal, desirable, and fun. The packaging mimicked famous tobacco brands so closely that the connection was impossible to miss. Kids traded them at school, showed them off at parties, and dreamed of the day they could upgrade to the real thing. Today, selling candy designed to normalize smoking for children would be unthinkable, banned by regulators who understand how early brand associations shape lifelong habits and health outcomes. Doctor-endorsed cigarette ads reassured holiday shoppers that their gift choices were medically sound, featuring actors in white coats recommending specific brands as gentler on the throat. These commercials positioned physicians as trusted authorities who personally preferred one cigarette over another, implying that smoking was not only acceptable but somehow healthy when done correctly. Holiday versions showed doctors relaxing after long shifts, lighting up with satisfied expressions while voiceovers praised the smooth taste and easy draw. Families watching trusted these endorsements completely because if a doctor approved, how dangerous could it really be? The ads ran during prime time, sandwiched between Christmas specials and cartoon blocks, reaching audiences of all ages with messaging that would later seem criminally deceptive. Nobody questioned whether real doctors actually smoked these brands or whether the claims had any scientific basis. Today, using medical professionals to endorse tobacco products would violate countless advertising regulations, trigger immediate legal action, and destroy any brand foolish enough to attempt such blatant manipulation. Sugary cereal ads promising toys inside every box dominated Saturday morning commercial breaks, showing children tearing through kitchens in desperate pursuit of plastic prizes buried beneath mountains of processed sweetness. These commercials barely mentioned the cereal itself, focusing instead on the collectible treasures waiting inside and the social status that came with completing entire sets. Holiday versions featured limited edition ornaments, tiny figurines, and trinkets that transformed breakfast into a frantic treasure hunt. Kids begged parents for multiple boxes, caring nothing about nutrition and everything about the cheap toy hidden at the bottom. The sugar content went unmentioned, as did the connection between these products and childhood obesity, cavities, and hyperactive behavior. Voiceovers promised magic, excitement, and the envy of every friend on the block. Parents, exhausted by constant demands, gave in during the holiday rush without considering the long-term health consequences. Today, advertising high-sugar cereals directly to children with toy incentives faces strict regulations and widespread criticism from health advocates alarmed by rising childhood diabetes. Station wagon ads showing kids riding in the way back without restraints celebrated a seating arrangement that would horrify modern safety experts. These commercials featured children sprawled across rear-facing seats playing games, napping on blankets, and waving at cars behind them through windows that offered zero protection in a crash. Advertisers positioned this space as a bonus feature, a mobile playroom where kids could roam freely during long holiday drives to visit relatives. The messaging emphasized family togetherness and adventure, never once acknowledging that unrestrained passengers in the rear cargo area faced catastrophic risks during collisions. Parents loved the idea of children entertaining themselves out of reach, and kids loved the freedom to move, climb, and explore. Holiday versions showed families loading presents alongside giggling children, everyone smiling as if nothing could possibly go wrong. Today, transporting children unrestrained in cargo areas would result in traffic citations, child endangerment charges, and social condemnation from parents who understand exactly how deadly such arrangements can be. Easy bake oven ads, targeting only little girls, reinforced gender expectations that seem painfully outdated by modern standards. These commercials showed young girls in aprons and bows, baking tiny cakes and cookies while boys were nowhere in sight, as if cooking was exclusively feminine territory. The messaging was clear. Girls belonged in kitchens, preparing food for families they would someday serve just like their mothers. Holiday versions featured girls presenting their creations to proud parents, absorbing lessons about domesticity wrapped in pastel pink packaging. Nobody considered that boys might enjoy baking, or that girls might prefer building rockets or playing sports. The toys themselves were marketed as preparation for adulthood, training wheels for a lifetime of household labor. Voiceovers praised little homemakers in the making, using language that now reads as limiting rather than empowering. Today, gendering toys so explicitly would invite boycotts, criticism from parenting groups, and accusations that the brand was actively discouraging children from exploring interests beyond traditional roles assigned by birth. Soda ads showing entire families drinking pop, with every meal normalized sugar consumption at levels that would alarm modern nutritionists. These commercials featured breakfast tables lined with cola bottles, holiday dinners where soda replaced water, and children guzzling fizzy drinks from morning until bedtime. The messaging celebrated refreshment, togetherness, and the modern convenience of having cases stacked in every kitchen. Nobody mentioned diabetes, obesity, tooth decay, or the addictive properties of caffeine and sugar combined. Holiday versions showed families toasting with soda instead of champagne, positioning sugary drinks as essential to every celebration. Kids absorbed the idea that meals without pop were somehow incomplete, a lesson that shaped dietary habits for decades. Advertisers sponsored Christmas specials, plastered logos across holiday packaging, and made their brands synonymous with seasonal joy. Today, marketing soda as an all-day family beverage would face significant pushback from health organizations, regulators concerned about childhood nutrition, and parents increasingly aware of how sugar consumption affects long-term wellness. Bike ads showing kids riding without helmets captured a casual attitude toward head injuries that makes modern parents cringe. These commercials featured children racing down hills, popping wheelies, and skidding across gravel with nothing but wind protecting their skulls. Holiday versions showed shiny new bicycles beneath Christmas trees, kids immediately hopping on and pedaling away into neighborhoods where helmets were completely unknown. The messaging emphasized freedom, speed, and the pure joy of two-wheeled adventure, never once mentioning the catastrophic consequences of falling headfirst onto concrete. Parents watching saw only the gift of mobility and independence, not the emergency room visits that could follow. Advertisers focused on style, color options, and accessories like streamers and bells, treating safety as someone else's concern. Children begged for the fastest, flashiest models without anyone suggesting protective gear. Today, advertising bicycles without prominently featuring helmets would draw criticism from safety advocates, parenting groups, and regulators who have spent decades educating families about traumatic brain injuries and prevention. Tanning lamp gift sets. Promising bronze holiday glows were marketed as beauty essentials without a single mention of the skin cancer risks lurking beneath their ultraviolet rays. These commercials showed women basking under home tanning devices, emerging with sun-kissed complexions perfect for holiday parties and family photographs. The messaging promised convenience. Why wait for summer when you could achieve a healthy glow right in your own bedroom? Nobody discussed melanoma, premature aging, or the cumulative damage that ultraviolet exposure caused with every session. Holiday versions positioned these lamps as thoughtful gifts for women who deserve to look their best during the busiest season. Voiceovers praised the natural-looking results, using words like radiant and healthy to describe outcomes now recognized as genuinely dangerous. Children watched their mothers using these devices and absorbed the message that tanned skin was beautiful and worth pursuing at any cost. Today, advertising home tanning equipment as safe or healthy would violate numerous regulations and invite immediate condemnation from dermatologists and cancer awareness organizations. Asbestos fireplace log ads promising cozy holiday warmth sold families on products now recognized as deadly. These commercials showed crackling fires, happy children roasting marshmallows, and parents relaxing in armchairs while artificial logs burned beautifully in decorated hearths. The messaging emphasized convenience and cleanliness, promising fires without the mess of real wood. Nobody mentioned the microscopic fibers released with every burn, fibers that could lodge permanently in lungs and cause diseases appearing decades later. Holiday versions featured these logs as perfect gifts for anyone with a fireplace, wrapped in festive packaging and sold at grocery stores nationwide. Families burned them on Christmas Eve, on New Year's, and throughout the cold winter months, never imagining the invisible danger drifting through their living rooms. Advertisers focused on ambiance, warmth, and the ease of modern life, leaving health concerns unaddressed. Today, marketing any product containing asbestos would be illegal, and selling something so hazardous as a cozy holiday tradition seems criminally negligent. Baby walker ads showing toddlers zooming towards staircases made mobility devices look like the greatest gift a parent could give a young child. These commercials featured babies rolling happily across kitchen floors, bouncing off furniture, and exploring spaces that were never designed for wheeled travel. The messaging promised developmental benefits, suggesting that walkers helped children learn to walk faster while giving parents a few precious moments of hands-free relief. Nobody mentioned the thousands of emergency room visits caused by walkers tipping over, rolling down stairs, or carrying babies into dangerous situations they could not escape. Holiday versions showed smiling grandparents presenting walkers as thoughtful gifts, completely unaware of the risks hidden inside cheerful packaging. Pediatricians later sounded alarms, and regulators stepped in with safety standards that changed how these products were designed and sold. Today, advertising baby walkers without prominent safety warnings would invite immediate criticism from child safety advocates and parenting groups alarmed by injury statistics. Spanking paddle gift sets marketed to parents promised discipline solutions that would horrify modern child development experts. These holiday ads showed wooden paddles decorated with humorous slogans, positioned as gag gifts, that also served a practical purpose in households where physical punishment was considered entirely normal. The messaging treated corporal punishment as a time-honored tradition, something passed from generation to generation like recipes or holiday decorations. Nobody questioned whether hitting children might cause lasting psychological harm or whether more effective discipline methods existed. Holiday versions featured these paddles and stockings wrapped under trees and exchanged at office parties where everyone laughed without hesitation. Parents hung them on kitchen walls as both decoration and warning, believing they were raising well-behaved children the same way their parents had raised them. Today, advertising products designed to strike children would be immediately condemned, pulled from shelves, and rejected by retailers who understand that attitudes toward discipline have fundamentally changed. Fruitcake ads, mocking weight gain in women, treated holiday indulgence as something shameful rather than celebratory. These commercials showed women eyeing desserts with visible guilt, while voiceovers joked about expanding waistlines and inevitable New Year's resolutions. The messaging implied that women who enjoyed holiday treats were somehow failing, losing control, or letting themselves go in ways their families would certainly notice. Holiday versions featured scales, diet books, and exercise equipment alongside the fruitcake itself, suggesting that every bite required immediate penance. Nobody considered how such messaging affected women struggling with eating disorders, body image issues, or the simple desire to enjoy the season without shame. Children absorbed these attitudes, learning early that female bodies were meant to be controlled, monitored, and apologized for whenever they changed. Today, running ads that mock women for eating during the holidays would trigger backlash from body positivity advocates, mental health organizations, and audiences tired of advertising that weaponizes food against women. Record player ads showing only fathers controlling the music reinforced household hierarchies that seem absurdly outdated by modern standards. These commercials featured men ceremoniously placing needles on vinyl while wives and children waited patiently for permission to enjoy shared family entertainment. The messaging positioned audio equipment as masculine territory, technology too sophisticated for women or children to operate without careful male supervision. Holiday versions showed fathers receiving these gifts with visible pride, immediately assuming complete control of the family's entertainment while everyone watched admiringly from nearby seats. Nobody questioned why mothers could not choose the music or why children needed permission to enjoy something meant for the entire household. The dynamic was presented as natural, even charming, a father presiding over his rightful domain. Today, advertising that depicts men as sole operators of household technology while women serve as passive audiences would be criticized as regressive, limiting, and completely out of step with modern expectations about equality in family life. Ambrosia salad with Cool Whip appeared at holiday gatherings as the fluffy pastel cloud that everyone recognized but nobody could quite define. In the 1970s, this dish required little more than a tub of whipped topping, a can of mandarin oranges, a can of crushed pineapple, a bag of mini marshmallows, and a generous handful of sweetened coconut flakes. Mothers folded everything together in large mixing bowls, creating a dessert that looked like something between a fruit salad and a dream. Children loved the sweetness, the colors, and the way the marshmallows softened overnight into pillowy bites that melted on the tongue. Some families added maraschino cherries for extra brightness. Others stirred in chopped pecans for crunch, and a few mixed in sour cream to balance the sugar. The dish required no cooking, no baking, and almost no skill, which made it perfect for busy kitchens where time was as precious as money. Ambrosia appeared at church potlucks, family reunions, and holiday buffets, always vanishing faster than anyone expected. It was never fancy, never complicated, and never apologized for being exactly what it was: pure, simple, affordable joy. Tang powder for Christmas morning drinks turned tap water into something that felt almost festive, even if it never quite matched the brightness of real orange juice. The jar sat on the counter with its bold orange lid, scooped out carefully so the powder did not cloud the air and land on everything nearby. Kids stirred their glasses with enthusiasm, watching the crystals dissolve into something that tasted like citrus mixed with sugar and nostalgia. Fresh juice was expensive, especially around the holidays when everyone wanted it, and Tang offered a compromise that stretched further and lasted longer. Astronauts drank it in space, or at least that is what the commercials claimed, and that fact alone gave it a certain credibility that orange juice could never match. Parents served it in plastic cups during holiday breakfasts, and no one complained because the sweetness made everything feel brighter. The tang on the tongue, the faint chemical aftertaste that some people secretly loved, became part of the season itself. Kids did not realize they were drinking a budget substitute. To them, it was simply what Christmas morning tasted like, and that memory lingered long after the jar was empty. Few 1970s ads tried harder to redefine hunger than Campbell's Soup is a Meal. The campaign showed families gathered around steaming bowls, beaming as if they'd just feasted on a steak dinner. The copy assured mothers that a can of soup could fill growing kids and hardworking dads alike. The truth? Most cans were water-thin and barely enough for one. But the ads weren't selling nutrition. They were selling reassurance. The idea that warmth, comfort, and a catchy slogan could replace substance. Families in the photos clutched spoons with choreographed joy, pretending not to notice the empty table around them. It's that cheerful denial that makes the ads so haunting now. You can almost feel the quiet hunger behind the smiles. Campbell's wasn't just selling soup, it was selling the illusion of enough. And somehow, in that strange blend of optimism and emptiness, it worked. Car ads minimizing safety were another staple of the 1970s, and they glorified speed above all else. Commercials showcased vehicles tearing down highways, drifting around corners, and racing through city streets. Seatbelts and crash risks were never mentioned. Instead, the focus was on horsepower, handling, and a carefree lifestyle. The faster the car, the more desirable it seemed, with young men often portrayed as heroes behind the wheel. Even when laws about seatbelt use began emerging, advertisers downplayed safety features as boring or unnecessary. The thrill of danger was part of the appeal, and the ads leaned into it heavily. For teens watching, it sent a clear message. Driving was about excitement, not responsibility. Parents worried, but companies pushed forward, knowing speed sold better than caution. Looking back, the lack of concern for safety feels reckless, especially compared to modern standards. These commercials remind us how long it took for responsibility to catch up with style. Cornflake candy clusters were the crunchy, sweet treats that appeared on holiday platters when the baking budget ran dry. But the need for something festive remained. In the 1970s, mothers melted butterscotch chips or peanut butter in double boilers, stirred in heaping cups of cornflakes, and dropped spoonfuls onto wax paper to cool into golden mounds. The recipe required almost nothing, just a box of cereal already in the pantry and a bag of chips bought on sale weeks earlier. Children loved the way the clusters shattered slightly when bitten, releasing that familiar cereal crunch mixed with something unexpectedly rich and sweet. Some families added peanuts for extra protein, others drizzled melted chocolate over the tops, and a few pressed red and green sprinkles into the surface before the candy hardened. The clusters looked homemade in the best possible way, imperfect and generous and clearly made with care. Neighbors received them in tins lined with tissue paper, never suspecting how little they cost to create. Cornflake clusters proved that holiday magic did not require expensive ingredients, just a willingness to turn the ordinary into celebration. Bagged cereal from the bottom shelf was one of those grocery aisle truths that every kid understood but never discussed outside the house. The bags were enormous compared to the name brand boxes sitting at eye level, puffed out with flakes, loops, or puffed rice that promised the same crunch at a fraction of the cost. The characters on the packaging looked slightly off, as if someone had drawn them from memory rather than reference. And the names were close enough to trigger recognition, but different enough to avoid lawsuits. Kids knew the difference the moment they saw a classmate unpack a lunchbox with a real brand tucked inside. But at home, that bag fed the family through an entire week of breakfasts and late-night snacks. Parents poured carefully to avoid crushing the flakes, and the plastic rustled loudly in the quiet of early mornings. Some kids learned to love it, finding comfort in the familiar crunch, even if the flavor sat just slightly to the left of expectation. Others said nothing, knowing that asking for the real thing meant admitting something they were not ready to say. The cereal filled the bowls either way. In the 1970s, nothing said elegant dining like a trembling tower of gelatin filled with chopped ham, olives, and globs of mayonnaise. The Jell-O salad perfection had promised that this wobbly creation was the height of sophistication, a dish fit for cocktail parties and Sunday dinners alike. Housewives were shown proudly sliding a mold from its tin, surrounded by smiling guests pretending it looked appetizing. The ad copy insisted it was a glamorous new way to serve salad, as if gelatin could somehow elevate meat scraps to haute cuisine. What makes this ad unforgettable is how confidently it turned pure chaos into glamour. Green, glossy, and somehow patriotic. The image of ham cubes trapped mid-float in lemon gelatin wasn't just unsettling, it was a snapshot of an era obsessed with modernity, where presentation trumped flavor and novelty mattered more than scents. Watching it now, you can almost hear the laughter under the polite smiles and wonder, did anyone actually eat that shimmering mountain of confusion, or just stare at it in disbelief? Beer ads featuring pregnant women might sound like a dark joke today, but in the 1970s it was a real selling point. Some companies ran campaigns for light beer that claimed it was so mild, so harmless, that even expectant mothers could enjoy a glass without worry. You would see smiling women with round bellies raising their bottles in toast, suggesting that drinking was part of a healthy social lifestyle. At the time, the science about alcohol and pregnancy was not as widely known, and advertisers used that gap in awareness to their advantage. They leaned into the idea that a lighter beer meant safer indulgence, turning it into a product for everyone at the table. Neighbors and friends might even have believed the message, treating these ads as reassurance that moderation was perfectly fine. Looking back, it is chilling to realize how casual the tone was, almost as if they were advertising orange juice or iced tea. These ads remind us just how different cultural standards were, and how profit often outweighed responsibility. What was framed as a lifestyle choice then now stands as one of the most shocking missteps in advertising history. Hot dog casserole with Velveeta was the kind of dish that made children cheer and food critics wince, but in the 1970s it represented something far more important than culinary prestige. Families stretched packages of hot dogs into full holiday meals by slicing them into coins, layering them with elbow macaroni, and smothering everything in a blanket of melted Velveeta cheese. The casserole bubbled in the oven until the edges turned golden and crispy, and the smell alone was enough to bring everyone running to the kitchen. Parents loved it because a single dish could feed a crowd without emptying the wallet, and kids loved it because it tasted like comfort wrapped in cheese. Some families added canned tomatoes, others stirred in frozen peas, and a few adventurous cooks topped the whole thing with crushed potato chips for extra crunch. It was never fancy, never pretentious, and never apologized for being exactly what it was. The dish appeared at potlucks, church suppers, and family gatherings where nobody cared about presentation as long as there was enough to go around. In a decade when making ends meet was an art form, hot dog casserole was a masterpiece of practical love. Day-old bread from the discount rack was one of those grocery store secrets that families guarded carefully, arriving early to grab the best loaves before anyone else noticed them. The bread sat in a separate section, marked down because it had passed its peak freshness by a single day, even though it tasted perfectly fine for toast, sandwiches, and French toast casseroles. Kids never knew the difference when their lunch sandwiches came wrapped in wax paper, and parents never mentioned the savings that added up loaf after loaf. The crust was slightly firmer, the center still soft enough for peanut butter to spread without tearing, and the price made room for other things the family needed. Some mothers turned it into bread pudding, croutons, or stuffing that stretched holiday meals further than fresh loaves ever could. There was no shame in the discount rack, only practicality dressed up as resourcefulness. Families learned to see value where others saw expiration dates, and those marked-down loaves fed more holiday breakfast than anyone ever counted. The bread did its job without complaint, and so did the people who carried it home. Toy ads with zero safety disclaimers were everywhere in the 1970s, and the products they pushed now seem almost unreal. Lawn darts with sharp metal tips, BB guns that fired real pellets, and chemistry kits packed with dangerous chemicals were all pitched directly to children. Commercials made these toys look adventurous and exciting, showing kids running through backyards or mixing bubbling concoctions without a hint of warning. One ad even showed kids launching lawn darts high into the air, cheering as they landed in the grass with no adults around. Another proudly boasted about chemistry sets that could make explosions, presenting danger as part of the fun. Parents were left to assume the products were safe simply because they were advertised on television. But the truth was, injuries were common, and stories of accidents spread quickly. Despite this, companies doubled down on the fun, turning hazards into selling points by emphasizing the thrill of real action. The ads glamorized risk, painting it as part of growing up. Kids begged for the toys, never realizing how dangerous they really were. Looking back, it is shocking to see how casually companies marketed what were essentially weapons or dangerous experiments as children's playthings. It took countless accidents and lawsuits before regulations began to rein in the worst offenders. Until then, the ads sold excitement with no mention of the risks waiting on the other side. Nothing captures the contradictions of 1970s entertaining quite like the Ritz Crackers Hostess Fantasy ads. Women in evening gowns arranged plates of crackers topped with improbable combinations: tuna salad, grapes, and sometimes both together. The slogan promised the elegant touch, though the results looked more like panic in party form. These ads turned finger food into performance art. The women were always smiling, perfect hair, perfect pearls, while balancing trays of snacks no one could possibly want. Every shot gleamed with effort, not enjoyment, like the food version of holding your breath. The women posed like models in a cooking catalog, each canapé a tiny act of self-control wrapped in mayonnaise. The message was simple and cruel. Grace was something you could fake with enough crackers and composure. Ritz wasn't selling flavor, it was selling control. The fantasy that with just one box of crackers, you could become the perfect hostess, unshaken by chaos. The irony, of course, is that it was chaos, The toppings, the pressure, the performance. It's the kind of elegance that wilts under scrutiny. Today, it's impossible not to laugh at how seriously they took it and how proudly they posed beside the world's most confusing canapé. Off-brand chips in oversized bags appeared at every holiday gathering where feeding a crowd mattered more than impressing anyone with fancy logos or recognizable packaging. The bags were enormous, puffed with air and filled with rippled or plain potato chips that tasted almost identical to the famous brands, but cost half as much at the register. Parents poured them into serving bowls without the original packaging visible anywhere nearby, and guests reached for handfuls without ever asking where they came from or noticing any difference. The crunch was right, the salt was right, and the satisfaction was exactly what people expected from chips at a party. Kids grabbed fistfuls during holiday movie marathons, leaving greasy fingerprints on remote controls and couch cushions without a care in the world. The bags lasted longer than name brands because there was simply more product inside, and leftovers stayed fresh enough in the pantry for days afterward. Nobody bragged about buying off-brand chips, but nobody apologized for them either. They did exactly what they were supposed to do, filling bowls and filling bellies while leaving money in the budget for things that mattered more to the family. Bread pudding made from stale loaves was the thrifty dessert that turned yesterday's leftovers into something warm, custardy, and surprisingly elegant. In the 1970s, no family with tight finances ever threw away bread that had gone slightly hard because every slice could be reborn in a baking dish filled with eggs, milk, sugar, and a generous pour of vanilla. Mothers tore the bread into rough chunks, soaked them in the custard mixture, and baked everything until the top turned golden and the edges crisped into caramelized perfection. The kitchen filled with a fragrance that smelled like holidays, comfort, and home all at once. Some families stirred in raisins, others added cinnamon and nutmeg, and a few drizzled warm vanilla sauce over each serving to make the dish feel even more special. Children scraped their bowls clean, unaware that the dessert had started as something most people would have discarded. Bread pudding carried no shame in its origins, only pride in its transformation. It was a dish that honored the past while celebrating the present, a reminder that nothing should ever be wasted when love and heat could turn the ordinary into something extraordinary. Store-brand saltine crackers came in sleeves so long they barely fit in the cabinet, stacked neatly inside boxes that cost a fraction of the name brands sitting one shelf higher. These crackers showed up beside every bowl of soup, every slice of cheese, and every late-night snack that needed something crisp to carry it. The taste was close enough that most kids never noticed the difference, and parents appreciated how far a single box could stretch through the cold months. They crumbled into chili, floated in tomato soup, and disappeared by the handful during holiday movie nights when the family gathered in front of the television. The packaging was plain, the branding forgettable, but the function was identical to anything fancier. Families learned to stop caring about logos when the crackers tasted the same and the savings added up week after week. Some kids even preferred the store brand, though they never admitted it outside the house. Those long sleeves became a quiet constant in kitchens where budgets mattered more than appearances, proof that simplicity could fill a home just as well as anything dressed up in flashy marketing. In the 1970s, nothing said cultural celebration like a taco kit and a handful of stereotypes. The Mexican Night ad campaign showed cheerful suburban families donning sombreros, strumming guitars, and laughing over tacos that came from a box. The message? Authenticity was just a seasoning packet away. The kits themselves were simple: taco shells, powdered mix, and a sense of adventure. But the marketing was pure theater. Even the food styling was exaggerated, with overstuffed tacos spilling neatly staged lettuce onto red tablecloths printed with cacti. The families beamed beneath cartoonish sombreros, unaware they were starring in a caricature disguised as dinner. It was innocence wrapped in imitation, a national pastime served in crunchy shells. Every photo looked like a school play about Mexico, staged in a living room. The awkward charm lies in how earnestly it tried to make tacos exotic while keeping them unmistakably American. The copy called it a fiesta the whole family can enjoy, which really meant mild spice and maximum safety. Looking at it now, you can't help but cringe and smile at once. It's kitschy, tone-deaf, and completely sincere. Proof that in the 1970s, even dinner came with a costume. SOS, which stood for creamed chipped beef on toast, was a military recipe that found its way into civilian kitchens, where stretching a few ounces of meat into a full meal was a necessary survival skill. In the 1970s, families opened small jars of dried beef, shredded the salty slices, and stirred them into a thick white sauce made from butter, flour, and milk. The creamy mixture was spooned over slices of toasted bread, creating a dish that was filling, savory, and unmistakably comforting. Fathers who had served in the armed forces recognized the recipe immediately, often joking about the less polite names soldiers had given it during their service. Children ate it without complaint because the sauce was rich, the toast was crispy, and the whole thing tasted like breakfast, and dinner had somehow merged into one satisfying plate. Some mothers added peas for color, others cracked a poached egg on top, and a few served it over biscuits instead of toast. The dish was never glamorous, but it represented something important: the ability to feed a family well even when the pantry held almost nothing. Beer commercials featuring kids or teens are perhaps the most unsettling examples of advertising gone too far. Some spots blurred the line, showing minors in scenes of celebration or casually included in parties where beer flowed freely. The implication was clear: drinking was part of growing up, and everyone, even the young, could join in. Smiling teens clinked glasses, or children appeared in the background of ads that otherwise focused on adult fun. The casual nature of these portrayals made alcohol look normal and harmless for all ages. Critics called them out, but companies defended the ads as playful or symbolic. The truth is, they were planting seeds early, using images of youth to build comfort with their products. Looking back, it is hard to imagine how these spots ever aired without backlash. Today they feel shocking, but in their moment, they were brushed off as clever marketing. It is a chilling reminder of how blurred the lines once were. Hamburger stroganoff with egg noodles was the stretchy, savory main dish that turned a single pound of ground beef into enough food to feed an entire family, and sometimes the neighbors too. In the 1970s, mothers browned the meat with onions, stirred in canned mushroom soup and a generous dollop of sour cream, and served the creamy mixture over a mountain of wide egg noodles that soaked up every drop of sauce. The dish filled the kitchen with an aroma that made everyone gather around the stove, asking when dinner would finally be ready. Children loved the way the noodles tangled around their forks, and the sauce coated everything in rich, beefy flavor. Some families stirred in frozen peas for color, others added a splash of Worcestershire sauce for depth, and a few topped each serving with a sprinkle of paprika to make the plate look more sophisticated. The recipe stretched a small amount of meat into a feast, proving that resourcefulness could taste just as good as abundance. Hamburger stroganoff appeared at holiday tables where the main protein was modest, but the love behind it was anything but small. Bologna by the pound from the deli counter was the unsung hero of holiday lunch duty, sliced thick or thin depending on how far the budget needed to stretch that week. The deli worker behind the glass would ask how much, and the answer often came after a quick mental calculation of how many sandwiches were needed before the next paycheck arrived. Kids ate it cold between slices of soft white bread slathered with yellow mustard, or fried in a cast-iron skillet until the edges curled upward and the surface turned golden brown. The smell of fried bologna drifting through the house became a signature scent of holiday break, as recognizable as pine trees or cinnamon sticks hanging in the kitchen. It was protein, it was affordable, and it filled bellies without complaint. Parents sliced it carefully, making each round last as long as possible, tucking it into school lunches and after-school snacks with quiet efficiency. Nobody advertised that they were eating bologna instead of roast beef or sliced turkey, but nobody hid it either. It was simply part of the rhythm of the season, a reliable friend in the refrigerator that never let anyone go hungry. No holiday table was safe from spam in the 1970s. In its most notorious ad, The brand proudly displayed a canned meatloaf baked with pineapple slices and glazed cherries, proclaiming it looks as good as it tastes. Depending on who you ask, that might not be saying much. The picture was pure Technicolor chaos: pink meat, golden fruit, and a glossy coating that glimmered like plastic. This wasn't just dinner. It was an edible sculpture from a fever dream. The campaign leaned hard into optimism, framing Spam as a modern miracle of convenience. Housewives could feed their families a holiday feast in minutes, even if it meant serving a fruit-topped mystery loaf that jiggled slightly when touched. What makes the ad unforgettable isn't the Spam, it's the sincerity. They truly believed this was beauty on a plate. Watching it today, you can't help but admire the confidence. It's kitsch, it's culinary chaos, and it's proof that the 1970s could make even canned meat look festive. Makeup ads promising obedient women are some of the most jaw-dropping relics of the 1970s. Certain campaigns literally tied beauty to submission, suggesting that women who used their products would be more pleasing, more manageable, and more acceptable to men. The ads were dressed up with soft lighting, elegant music, and romantic slogans, but the underlying message was clear. Cosmetics were not about self-expression, they were about control. Models gazed longingly at men who looked on approvingly, as though mascara or lipstick was the secret to a compliant personality. For teenage girls flipping through magazines, these messages set a dangerous standard about what it meant to be attractive. The ads reinforced outdated gender roles under the guise of glamour, selling the idea that beauty meant silence and obedience. In a decade where women were fighting for equality in the workplace and beyond, the contrast is staggering. It shows how deeply advertising clung to old stereotypes, even as society was pushing forward. Today, these ads look more like satire than marketing, but in their time, they were taken seriously. Kool-Aid Punch served as the holiday drink in countless homes where real fruit juice or sparkling cider felt like an impossible luxury. In the 1970s, a few packets of powdered drink mix, a cup of sugar, and a pitcher of cold water could transform any gathering into something that felt festive and bright. Mothers mixed the punch in giant bowls, sometimes adding ginger ale for fizz or canned pineapple juice for a tropical twist that made the drink feel fancier than its price tag suggested. Children lined up with paper cups, eyes wide at the brilliant reds, purples, and oranges that seemed to glow under the kitchen lights. The sweetness was intense, the colors were impossible, and nobody cared that it came from a packet instead of a fruit tree. Some families froze the punch into ice rings studded with maraschino cherries, creating centerpieces that floated in the bowl like edible decorations. Others served it warm, spiked with cinnamon sticks and cloves, pretending it was something closer to mulled cider. The drink was never about authenticity. It was about celebration, about making a holiday feel complete even when the budget said otherwise. Margarine instead of real butter sat in refrigerators across the country, yellow and soft inside its plastic tub, ready to spread on toast or melt into holiday recipes without complaint. The tub itself was practical, reusable, and destined for a second life, holding leftovers or crayons long after the margarine was gone. Families who bought it rarely mentioned the switch, and most kids never questioned why their bread tasted slightly different from what they ate at a friend's house. Butter was expensive, and margarine offered a workaround that almost no one discussed openly. It spread easier straight from the fridge, which mothers appreciated during busy mornings, and it disappeared into mashed potatoes and baked goods without leaving a trace of guilt. Some grandparents refused to touch it, insisting that butter was the only proper choice, but budgets did not always allow for tradition. The margarine sat quietly beside the eggs and milk, never demanding attention, never pretending to be something it was not. And over time, it became just as familiar as anything else in the kitchen. Kids grew up spreading it on biscuits and never thought twice about what they might have been missing. Alcohol ads using cartoon characters blurred a dangerous line between fun and adult behavior. In the 1970s, beer and liquor companies experimented with mascots and animation that looked no different from cereal commercials. Smiling animals, dancing bottles, and catchy jingles made the drinks seem playful and inviting. The strategy was deliberate. If kids found the ads entertaining, they would grow into customers who already recognized the brand. Parents might have laughed at the cartoons, never realizing how easily they bridged into children's imaginations. Teenagers were especially vulnerable because the ads seemed youthful and rebellious at the same time. Some even mimicked Saturday morning cartoon styles, slipping right into the same visual language kids trusted. Looking back, it is shocking how openly companies leaned on tactics clearly designed to catch young eyes. These ads showed how little separation there was between child-friendly entertainment and adult marketing. What we now see as exploitation was once just business as usual. If any of these outrageous holiday ads stirred a memory or a laugh, share your favorites in the comments below, tap like to spread the nostalgia, and subscribe so you never miss another trip into the advertising world we left behind.